Imagine this. It's the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, and your ace reliever doesn't just glance at his catcher for the sign. He gets the pitch call instantly through a vibration on his glove. The batter, meanwhile, saw this pitcher 100 times in virtual reality before ever stepping into the box. And the ump behind the plate, he's human, yes, but the final strike call comes from a laser-accurate AI whispering in his ear. This isn't science fiction. It's happening right now in spring training stadiums, in player development labs, and in the data rooms of front offices across the league. Welcome to Gruber Wired, where today we are talking about Baseball Tech 2025. We'll be exploring the cutting-edge tech transforming America's pastime. From Hawkeye cameras and biometric wearables to AI-driven scouting and robot umpires, we're breaking down how the game is evolving and where it's headed next. I'm Mark Beach.
And I'm Harry McManus, playing the part of John Dodson. And today we're diving into the tech that's shaping the 2025 season and beyond. Because baseball's future isn't just faster, smarter, and more precise, it's already here.
Yes, it is. So, here's the thing. Of all the tech that's revolutionizing the game, there's some questions, that exist around, will this take the soul out of baseball? Will robot umps or, umps that hear tones in their ear and control where the strike zone is, how will that affect the soul of the game? What do you think?
That's a interesting question, Mark. The way I look at it is it's going to speed up the game.
Right.
It's going to lower the confusion and the arguing, and it's going to increase offense.
Yeah.
We're going to have to swing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, consistency is important for players, pitchers, pitchers and batters. I think consistency is huge. And there's nothing more frustrating than watching a game and you're yelling at the TV because that strike wasn't a strike, and that called strike 3 turns into, hard feelings, right? And not just on the part of the players and the coaches, but on the part of the fans.
Well, I am a little bit more of a purist, so I do like the strategy part to where every time there's a different ump behind the plate, they have to decide whether that outside pitch is actually going to be a strike or a ball, and the framing that the catcher does to try to, sell the strike. So some of that will be taken away.
Angel Hernandez retired, right? So some of those peaks and valleys are going away, but Laz Diaz is still around, right?
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
It's a little bit difficult, though, sometimes, because you don't know whether they're going to be in or not. Even throughout the game, umpires can widen the zone or narrow the zone depending on who's throwing. There's some personalities involved, and ultimately, you could tell there's some umps that don't like certain pitchers or certain batters, and they carry resentment from one game to the next, from one season to the next, and it gets a little bit inconsistent, right?
I'm sure you've seen some of the viral videos where, somebody argues a call and then the next pitch is way outside and the ump still calls them a strike and rings them up.
Right.
We're going to miss out on a lot of that.
Right, exactly. Well, so we're going to talk about a few of the things that have found their way into baseball. Some of them are awesome. The first one we're going to talk about StatCast. And if you want to bring out image 1, Jesse, StatCast really makes a very interesting way to watch baseball. It's improved broadcasting. When you can get this kind of feedback and see where somebody traditionally hits and how they hit, how far they hit, you can truly see the talent of a player. Some of them are, which is why the shift worked for so many years, right? They are dead consistent. They're going to throw it in certain areas, and they don't pull the ball. They don't have much of a variance in how they attack. So they end up being predictable, right?
Well, I enjoy it with the home run derby. You get to see how far every ball flies out.
Yeah. And this stuff, whether it's this or the little strike zone matrix that's there. I mean, when I go to the baseball stadium, I always look for where the pitch speed is, and they used to move it around the stadium. One season it'd be over here, another season it'd be over here. Now I think it's on the main scoreboard that they have it in the little corner there. But I would always look for what kind of pitch it was and what speed it was, because when you're sitting there, it's hard to tell. And for a batter, I can only imagine what that's like, having to deal with some of these guys that are throwing 100 or close to 100. It gets crazy.
On a side note, how do you think it's going to do? Do you think it's going to lead to more offense, less strikeouts?
I think that a cue for an ump as to whether something is a strike or not is really going to allow pitchers to nibble the edges better. I think that the no doubter strikes are one thing, but really if a pitcher can perfect where they attack the strike zone and they're able to practice and really carve out the exact limits of the zone, then I think there's going to be more of that, and I think it's going to be better strategy in the long run. There's an old story about a psychology study that was done where they had this playground and all these kids, right? And they took the fences away, and they noticed that the kids tended to play more in the center of the playground because there were no fences. But as soon as they put the fences up, the kids ran up to the edges of the fences, and they used the entire playground. And I think it's going to be the same thing with pitchers. I think that once they know where that fence is, I think they're going to play right up to the edges of it, and I think it's going to change the game in a good way. I think that we're going to see a lot of pitcher artisans out there who are really going to learn how to develop that whole strike zone approach, not having to worry about is it going to be called or not.
I'm really interested to see, how the technology evolves. I know, because I played baseball for a good 20 years, and I know that the biggest thing when you step up from high school, college to even AA is the movement of the ball.
Right.
So I'm curious to see how, when it moves out, moves back in.
Right.
Are those still going to be called strikes?
Well, and those are the things, too, that umps can tend to have the hardest time with. So I think that, as long as that cubic area is defined, and it does change by batter because, your waist to your knees to your, shoulders or chest is different. It's different for, a Aaron Judge versus I'm trying to think of the guy's name right now on the Houston Astros, the short guy.
Altuve?
Yeah, Jose Altuve.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. Very different.
Yeah.
So, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops. I really think it will add to the game overall. So not only do we have that, but then we have the Hawkeye system, which is, there to improve pitch tracking, right? Again, thank you. This is right on top of the pitch speed, where the ball is located, and this is awesome tech that can be used to refine the game.
Also help with your home runs that are curving around the foul poles. And
Right, exactly. They're going to use this, for a lot of that pitch tracking, and obviously you're going to need to know, height as well as left, right. So it's in a cubic space. PitchCom, that's recently come out. When did they start that? Maybe a couple years ago, right?
I think it might have been even
last year. Yeah,
last year that they started it.
Yeah, and so now pitchers and catchers don't have to use the finger signs anymore, although some of them still do. It eliminates the potential for sign stealing.
Although that, some would argue that is part of the game.
Right.
try to get one over on the other teams.
Right, exactly. But pitchers are still going to tip their pitches based on how they approach. Some of them are pretty stealthy, but others have to grip a certain way, and they have to do whatever they do in their glove. So, again, I think it adds, when we dealt with the Houston Astros thing, and the sign stealing accusations from their World Series championship, was it 2017? It was a big asterisk on baseball. Utilizing cameras in the outfield to see signs and see what the results were. So again, I think that when we look at this, there's PitchCom. The pitcher and the catcher can get on the same page quicker too, so it makes the games go faster, because you get different pitchers in there and you have signs, and whether changing up signs or use different signs based on somebody on base versus, and they get all confused. Now they have the ability to just be right on the same page, and it does improve the pace of the game, I think.
No more what was it, Durham, where he was telling where the pitch was coming.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then you see players, they're using biometrics on their body. So kind of expensive versions of like Fitbits and things like that show their stress or their fitness, or how they are actually performing as their body experiences different component portions of the game. So that is on field tech. Then we talk about virtual reality and using VR for training. I think it's again a great tool. I go back to like when the Wii first came out, right? And you could play ping pong, and you could play all tennis and all kinds of different stuff. And you adapt that into this, or like flight training, right? I mean, this VR technology is really right on, and it's muscle memory.
My biggest question with a lot of this is, how much are they going to let you use live in a game? For example, you can see how many times a pitcher threw you low and outside or low and inside, how fast he's throwing.
Right.
Next at bat, you can maybe lean on a pitch.
Right.
So are they going to let you use it through the whole game, or is it going to be mainly for after the game?
And that's one thing that really impressed me about Curt Schilling when he pitched, because he knew every batter. He had made that app that at one point in time, but I mean, he had his data in the dugout on every batter. He knew what he was going to throw them and when. He was one of the most studied pitchers that I've ever seen in the game. He didn't just flow by instinct. He flew by data.
Well, that was Greg Maddux too. I mean, he didn't have the best stuff in the world, but his location and knowing the weakness of every batter is really what put him over.
Right. Yeah, and that's being smart, working smart, not hard necessarily, right? And we look at this stuff and really understand that baseball is the nerds love baseball, right? I'm a big nerd, so I can say that. The stats have lived around for 120, 130, 140 years, right? I mean, 1880s. So you figure that, right? It's a game where history is defined and well known, and so it means something when records get broken. Unlike other sports that maybe just kind of coming into their own. Baseball is a statistician's delight. I mean, when that movie Moneyball came out, right? They were talking about dollar value of a player versus their contribution, and looking at getting on base. That was a really big thing Billy Beane worked on, and it was Rick James, right? And his stats on, or his formulas for calculating the value of a player. That took the Oakland A's and helped them to be competitive when they were losing stars.
On base percentage became the ultimate stat. So.
Exactly. So, with VR comes AR as well, which is augmented reality. So in environments where they are actually in a stadium, but working through VR to augment what they see, so they can see it better, right? I think it's pretty amazing stuff. And they, so item 5 just kind of shows some of the things they track. You have your vest in the back, and I printed out some of this stuff here. We're talking about the K vest, which is put sensors on the batter's upper torso, pelvis, and lead arm to capture motion for detailed analysis of swing efficiency. And then the bat with the swing tracker on it, it's used by 15 MLB teams with sensors attached to the knob of the bat that transmits data about angles, planes, and velocity to produce a 3D model of a player's swing. I mean, it hurts my head to even think about this, right?
It's a lot like golf now. They're going to mess with somebody's swing, and they're going to go in a slump for about 40 games, and then next thing you know, they're going to be popping up again.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's never going to be any getting away from the emotion of baseball, right? I mean, people are going to always wear their lucky socks, right? They're going to not change. They're not going to wash their jersey if they're on a streak. There's all kinds of crazy stuff, superstitions, and players are the most superstitious people out there.
No more slump busters?
Look, man, I'm superstitious. I'm like, if the D-backs win a game and whatever I'm wearing that the next game I watch, right? Sure. It's like, I don't want to jinx it, right? And so, we tend to think we have control over things we really don't have control over. But the great part about the game is that there is a willingness to accept the science now. Absolutely. And then there's a Kinetrack system as well that is between 8 and 16 high-speed video cameras that are installed along the first and third baselines that capture every movement of the pitcher and the hitter. And it uses AI then and machine learning to provide 3D rotational and positional data for every joint in their bodies. I mean, that's crazy.
It is.
I think that it says here that the system is anywhere between $80,000 and $150,000, which seems cheap compared to how much they pay for players, right?
Well, the Dodgers and the Yankees will have a
leg
man.
Up, right? Well, let's not even talk about them, right? And then there's let's see. Edgertronic is a high-speed video camera that it's capable of capturing 22,000 frames per second. So that's one thing that I like when we have, when the World Series is on and they have those slow-mo cameras and everything, because they don't do that during the regular season at all, right? But during the World Series, man, they basically slow everything down. You can see everything just come in crystal clear. I mean, it's enjoyable being at the game, but now with the tech that they're able to put on TV, I think it's a lot of fun to watch it, because you see some things that you're not going to catch at the stadium.
They definitely want to make it more, friendly. Remember when hockey had the red tracer for the puck so that you could see? So
I remember when they brought that out, and they got rid of it too, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it distracted from the fun of it for sure.
But it is, baseball kind of has a version of that when you can see the heavy curve on the curveball or the backdoor slider cutting in, and it's got the little tracer. So
right. But that's usually after. They don't do it live. They do it, on a replay or whatever.
Maybe we could talk to them.
Yeah.
Have it do it live.
You never know. So let's see. The last thing is, it's called Rapsodo, and these are in the ground of the pitcher's mound and in the ground at home plate. So we've all seen it, I'm sure, when we're watching broadcast, and you can see the angle, and you're wondering, how do they get the camera there, right? It's in the ground, so it doesn't interfere with anything, apparently, but it captures everything that's going on from the pitcher's mound to home plate. So, and they're only $4,000 a unit. It says more than 100 individual players, 500 colleges, and 400 baseball academies use it.
They used to have an old version of that in the 90s. It was about a foot tall by about 8 inches wide, and they would break constantly because every time a foul ball hits it, got to replace it.
I imagine, that's probably the real test of those things too. Oh, when I think of this kind of stuff, I also think of like the pylon cams in football. Then they get the heck beat out of them, but they're in a cushion, so they can take a little bit more of a beating. So those are some of the things that from that standpoint, like with if we go to picture 6, this is what we see on TV when you're doing a playback, or if you're not able to watch it on TV for image 6. Jesse, you here?
My son plays a lot of online baseball, so this is starting to look a lot like a PlayStation or an Xbox version of baseball, the way that...
Right. Well, if you go to the MLB app and you can't actually view the video of the game, it does the pitch tracker like this, pitch by pitch. And sometimes, so I use the MLB Bunt app and I play. You can actually play your cards. So it's baseball card collecting. It's the same cards that are in their printed series that they sell retail, but you can collect them in the app, and then they have a point value, and you can play your cards. So today was the first day that they started doing contests, and you play your best pitcher, your best catcher, first, second, third, shortstop, outfielders, designated hitter, right? And you put your people in, and then you rank. But there are some contests in there where they allow you to do unlimited swaps. Yeah. So like on a Saturday, if I'm watching a baseball game, I'll go in and out of the selection in the contest, and as batters are coming up, I'll fill all 10 slots with the same batter, right? And you got to be on top of it because TV's delayed. Sure. So you can't go by what's on TV. So what I do is I have a tablet up, and I actually watch everything that's happening there, which is before it happens on TV, and then once that batter's done, I dump all their cards and put in the new batter, so I know that they're on deck, who's on deck, and you can actually, when a batter's batting, you can have all their cards in there, and then you can take them out while they're batting as long as you don't save it, and you can put the person that's on deck in there so that when they strike out or get hit, then you can hit save again, and it jumps right in.
Think about the difference between that and the 80s when Topps first came out with a version of that was more like a board game.
Right.
And you have to wait for the box score the very next day before you could tally everything up, see who won. And
that's crazy. But yeah, tech is it makes the game super enjoyable, especially if you're, don't have anything to do and you want to sit around and get in a contest and play and try and work strategy. I've kind of figured out now that I have to play a lot of pitchers because the point system for pitchers is different, obviously, than batters, but the odds favor the pitcher every time, no matter who's up. Yeah. And so there's a strategy behind that, but your pitchers don't stay in, for the whole game, whereas a batter is going to play the whole game. Potentially.
I play a fantasy version that's a lot like that, but it's cumulative stats.
Right.
So it's total strikeouts, ERA. So every day you have to put in as many pitchers as you can in order to even have a chance.
Right. Yeah. Now, one thing that we touched on earlier was, the automated balls and strikes system, and image 7. So this is kind of what we talked about earlier, with Jose Altuve and Aaron Judge, right? 5'6" versus 6'7". the zone is going to be obviously wider for Aaron Judge, and the ABS system will be able to tell whether the ball crosses their strike zone or not. When they use this, I was reading a stat today in Cactus League, right? They had the challenge system for this, so they didn't use ABS to call balls and strikes, but the team could challenge a ball or strike call, and I think they got 2 challenges a game. But if they won their challenge, they retained it. So they had to lose 2 challenges in order to lose the ability to do that.
My biggest worry is, as you mentioned earlier, screaming at the TV.
Yeah.
As we know, in the NFL, they'll do replays. You'll see that it's obvious the wrong call, and they won't change the call. So
Right.
I'm hoping that MLB gets it right, unlike the NFL lots of times.
Right. Well, this is computerized, so if when they do the review, the ABS system says whether it was a ball or strike definitively. Right. It's not even like a judgment call where the refs have to go look at it. And an astonishing 51% of the challenges were overturned. So that means whenever the challenge was issued, 51% of them had been valid, incorrect calls, right? Maybe that's a contradiction. They were incorrect calls. So, if you bring up the next graphic, this is where baseball tracks everything. There's a great website that I use all the time. I'm out there. I take a look at these stats. They post on X, especially the more egregious umpires that you can see that you're not crazy when you watch a game and something's wrong, and you got an ump that's got an 89% rate on their accuracy. You're not crazy, right?
Yeah.
And these are 3 of the World Series games from last year, and they rate the plate umpire. They'll show where they missed all the missed calls, so missed called balls, missed called strikes, and then if they impact the game at all, and then it will show who did it favor. So, like in Game 1, it says it favored the Yankees by plus 0.99. And then the next game, Game 4, looked pretty even. There was really not much. It didn't favor either way. And then Game 4 or Game 5, it favored the Yankees again by 1.64. So you can see that they're already tracking the performance of the umpires, and these are the best. I mean, they were selected among their peers to be to ump the World Series. So it's pretty crazy when you think about all of the tech that's out there that keeps track of everything, and then how to make the game better, how to use it to make the game better, right?
Biggest thing I was thinking about is, I mentioned earlier, I think it would eliminate the argument, but now that I'm thinking about it, tennis has a system that's very similar,
right? And
they argue. They argue every time. So I imagine it won't fix that aspect.
Well, people can be they can get angry, but if the machine wasn't calibrated correctly,
Yeah.
there's always going to be an excuse. But I think this gets it closer to, because these are professionals who are paid a lot of money to do a job, and to me, it's only reasonable that they just want it accurate. Whatever the outcome is, just make it accurate. Then I don't have any hard feelings. We're winding up on our half an hour. I just wanted to thank Harry for joining us. He's one of our team members, and he is John's partner in crime on the sales floor. They work together as Team McDo, so they work and service a group of clients together. And Harry's he was here before me. But what a great resource. He's been just tremendous with new people that have started, as well as just jumping in when we're trying to solve a problem. Harry's usually the first one that'll pull something up on the computer when he hears that something's going on. He's checking out for a particular resource or part or whatever. So I just wanted to thank him for stepping in today. John couldn't be with us, so Harry just shot his hand right up and said he would be here.
And I promised John I wouldn't set the bar too high so that he could still get over it here for the.
Well,
the next time you guys are together,
I've enjoyed having you here. It's great, to mix it up a little bit, and he's definitely much appreciated for doing that. So we're going to sign off for now. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this podcast. We're here every Thursday at 3 p.m. Arizona time. For now, I'm Mark Beach.
Harry McManus.
And have a great day.